Okay, so I just wanted to do a quick video today. I'm not going to sort of labour on too much. I am in the process of picking my daughter up from school, so I just wanted to throw this video out there. This video is almost, if you like, a reflection of a conversation that I've had with a subscriber. His name's David, who's from Norfolk. Hope you're well, mate. Our conversation the other day sparked off quite a number of interesting sort of areas for topic, if you like, and I think it's pertinent to those starting their business for the first time, trying to get these things off the ground. And Dave wanted to sort of know about about getting sort of more commercial customers in his business. Has a relatively decent sized round for window cleaning, etc., in the residential side, but is yet to sort of really break into the commercial business to business sort of operation for window cleaning. And the approach that Dave pointed out, which I think is amazing, is that he's sort of gone, maybe I'm overthinking this, maybe I'm getting in my way too much, in the sense that he really doesn't know where to start when it comes to talking to people on that side of the business, the commercial side. And I said to him, says, yeah, you are overthinking it. And I wanted to break that in. And again, without having, and it's not just him, and it's nothing personal, but it just sort of sparked off in my mindset that when I very first started a business, everything was really, really overwhelming. And, and a case in point, when you learned to drive a car, those of us that can drive, for example, okay, when you learn to drive a car for the first time, okay, it is uber overwhelming. You're learning about the gears, the clutch, the timing, the signals, don't forget to do this, and blah blah. It can seem really, really overwhelming, especially for young people starting to learn to drive for the first time. Now here's the thing, right? Those of us that have been driving for years, we just see driving, he says as a bus goes behind him, we just see driving as, I'm going to get in the car, I'm going to turn the key, I'm going to go from A to B, do what I've got to do and come back. It's simple because we are experienced, we do not overthink stuff. We literally get in the car, do what we have to do, turn the key, go to A to B, come back, jobs are good. And but for those who have not got the confidence, driving is an utter cluster. You've got all these things to think about. If you analyze it, yeah, and you break it down, there's lots and lots of little things to think about for everything, whether it's turning on a junction, a roundabout, mirror signal, maneuver, all that sort of stuff. It's a lot to think about. But there are a lot of parallels between that and starting a business. Because if you knew 100% of what you had to do before starting a business, most people would not bother starting a business because it would just literally be so overwhelming. They would just go, oh, sod this for a game of soldiers. I'll just go and do my 9 to 5 and punch a clock for 8 hours and get my pay at the end of the month or end of the week or whatever. Because sometimes simplicity wins. But all I would say is looking at it from my perspective, and my perspective is a little bit different in the sense that there was a real motivation for me to start a business. Again, I've mentioned this in previous videos. I'm not going to cover all old territory, but my motivation to start a business was literally, it was pressure. I needed to make money. I needed to feed my children, there was desperation. There was real desperation. And, I'm going to hold my hand up and I'm not going to butter it up and say, oh, yeah, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I'm not. I don't know everything, clearly. And I didn't know everything when I started my business, but the pressure, the worry of what would happen if I didn't start my business was overwritten by the fact that if I didn't make money, then, my children were going to suffer, my wife was going to suffer, our family unit as a whole was going to suffer. And I, the man of the house, if you like, could not let that happen. So that fear was overridden by a desire to achieve. And a lot of people starting a business now, they don't have necessarily that fear. And if you don't have, so fear can motivate you, It's not necessarily a bad thing. Fear can motivate you. Fear of the consequence of something not coming off, not working for you. You know, that's a real sort of thing to take away. But going back to David's point about the whole fear of talking to people, the whole fear of rejection, the whole, fear of judgment from others and all this sort of stuff. Here's the thing, where my situation differs from David is that his fear of rejection is slightly overwhelming his fear of success. And so he's letting that little bit of fear get in the way of what he wants to achieve. Whereas I've mentioned in the past, if someone rejects what I have to offer, right, fine, on to the next. It's not even a feature in my mindset. And in most people who run businesses mindset, it's the same. They don't care about people's rejection, only care about the people that want the service from me and are prepared to pay me for the privilege. I couldn't give a monkeys about whether someone thinks I'm unprofessional or something like that, unless unless they're a customer that's paying good money, etc. But that fear of rejection, that fear of ridicule, that fear of being, that imposter syndrome, that fear of being found out, etc., is completely overridden by my willingness to succeed. And like when I learned to drive, it was overwhelming. I mean, here's the thing, right? I learned to drive when I was 28 years old. I learned to drive really, really late on. Lack of money, etc. I learned to drive really, really late on. I learned to drive when I was 28. However, I'd done 2 tours of Iraq when I was 24. So I was almost like, why? People, and I was really worried about driving and all this sort of stuff. And my instructor, knew that I'd been to Iraq and stuff because he was an army instructor, and said, pulled me over to the side of the road and ultimately had the chat, if you like, and say, why are you so worried about learning to drive? He says, I'm worried about hurting someone and all this sort of stuff. And he says, it's funny because you have been through situations in the past where you've been shot at, you have been blown, I've literally been blown up I've been involved in an IED incident and stuff like that at close quarters. And it's funny because he was almost like, you've been through stuff that most people haven't gone through. Why does this scare you? Why does this terrify you? Yeah. And it's because I was looking at things all over the place and little details and da-da-da, rather than almost looking at things as a step-by-step process. Yeah. If you look at the whole picture before you start, for someone who is new, there's every chance that will absolutely overwhelm you. But as a new guy, if you look at learn, you break it down in effect into little chapters, yeah, and you learn chapter 1. And when you've learned chapter 1 and you've got really good at chapter 1, then chapter 2 will make more sense. And then when you've learned chapter 1 and 2 combined, then chapter 3 makes a bit more sense. And then when you learn the combined knowledge of those 3 chapters will lead naturally on to chapter 4, 5, 6, 7, 99, 1001, whatever. Business is exactly the same. Just because you don't have all the answers right now does not mean that you can't find out. Does not mean that you can't make a start. I follow Rob Moore, who's a decamillionaire who has a channel on Facebook, Instagram, and all that sort of stuff. I will leave a link in the description, etc. There's a lot of what Rob Moore has to say that makes a lot of sense, which is you do not have to be perfect to start, but you do have to start to get to a position where you can be perfect, or as close as can be in doing a task. So I've waffled a little bit, but David's situation where he's worried about ridicule, he's worried about being found out as not being professional, as being the new guy, if you like, and all this sort of stuff, it is purely imposter syndrome. And it is something that can be overwhelmed by actually learning and doing as you go. It's not something to run away from, it's something to embrace. Yeah? And it's simply a case of getting to the decision maker, okay, and sort of offering the services that you have to offer. And if the customer wants your service, then happy days. If the customer doesn't want your service, also happy days. Still leave them a leaflet, still extend that bridge, that offer of service in the future. They might not want you now, but they might want you in future. Yeah. One way or another, you leave an impression with the customer, and they might not need you now, but in future things may change. And if things do change, they will remember you in future, and you just move on to the next, and you 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 keep building, and you keep going, and you keep, building. Chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 1001. Just keep going, right? And the final takeaway from this video before I sign off is ultimately to, sort of get out of your own way. Stop putting obstacles. Life is hard enough as it is. Do not, for the love of Christ and all that is holy, do not put stuff in your way. Life will do that for you for free. You don't need to assist it, yeah? If something, is bothering you, then, look at ways that you can go around the situation. Look at, if you're worried that you can't do something, then do something that you can do and build gradually over time. But, yeah, everybody just needs, when they start a business, to sort of put their emotions in a box, if you like, and just do what they can do and build steady over time. Get out of your own way, get out of your own head. Don't worry, just do. And you will be amazed at the results. Utterly amazed. Anyhow, here endeth the lesson, here endeth the sermon. I'm going to, I'm here to pick my daughter up, etc. from school, and then I've got to go and run a quote. So it never stops. Keep on keeping on. Boys and girls, all the very best. I shall see you in the next video. Take care.